So I think it's kind of twofold. When I started writing, I was just writing off the cuff, just spitballing it, thinking of whatever I could think of. And after working with a lot of other writers and collaborating, which at first is kind of awkward, but then you get into it, I recognized how important it is to be poignant in what you're saying, to keep away a lot of the extra bits and pieces, and to really hone in on what exactly you're trying to say in the lyric, and also to pair it well melodically. And so I think that the evolution of my own writing has become much more refined, and I've recognized that it's definitely a muscle that you need to continue to work on, and if you don't, it gets weak. And so a lot of people are like, oh, I'm not inspired to write today, and I disagree with that. I think that you need to write as often as you possibly can to keep that muscle active.
Perfect.
This is probably about 2.5 years ago, maybe more so. I had flown a friend out to Los Angeles where I was living at the time, and I said, let's write some songs. And so the first song we wrote was terrible, and then the second one, in the morning, I had actually gone to bed the night before, and my wife had said to me, I'm very, very confident that I'm pregnant and that I'm having a baby girl. And I was like, what? And hadn't figured that out for sure yet, but she was very convinced, and I was like, I believe you. So the next morning I didn't want to tell him that, but I felt very inspired to write sort of a life song. And I all of a sudden realized, wow, I never thought about being a dad, and the fact that maybe one day I could also be a grandfather. And so him and I wrote a song called Time. It took us about 45 minutes, and it just kind of just came out, and it was all about the times that you would want to teach to that little human. And the neat thing for me was that we recorded a demo of it. I sent it into my publisher, and about a year later they contacted me and said they wanted to use it in a Folgers commercial. And I thought, oh, that sounds amazing, but you never know what those commercials are going to be. So then when I saw the commercial, there's a little girl sitting at like a breakfast bar, and she's kind of coloring, and a dad comes down and he pours coffee into a to-go mug, and then he's about to leave the house and he realizes, no, I think I'm going to stay, and he pours it into like a #1 dad stay-at-home mug, and he sits down beside his little girl. And so the fact that they use a song that was inspired by the birth of my daughter to sort of represent this moment, it was really special.
It's like meant to be kind of.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
It was cool. I think always challenge yourself. I think if you are just like writing a song and you're like, this is the best song I've ever written or whatever, it's like, Rachel Platten, she's a great inspiration on this front, where before she released Fight Song, she wrote 100 songs before it. And if you talk to a lot of artists, they're the same way. They want to have they just keep churning it out. And not to say that your first song isn't your best song, but I think that a lot of new writers will say to me, oh, how do I get a publishing deal? How do I get a record deal? And my advice to them is always that people want to get on board a moving train. And you got to be moving. You got to be, challenge yourself. Like, focus on, if you're trying to write songs for radio, listen to the radio and see what's coming out, and then compare your songs against it. And if they're not good enough, write harder and write better and collaborate, and always challenge yourself. That'd be my advice.
I think that's great advice, actually. Yeah.